So hi there, my name is David Scorteccia, and I'm the creator and developer of the Sound Bullet.
Thanks for coming back to the channel. In this video, we've got a first look at a really cool new product, and that's the Sound Bullet. Instead of me talking about it in this first look, I thought it'd be a lot more fun, since I just got this one in, to talk to the guy who actually created the thing. So I'm gonna shut up here, and we're gonna jump right into a conversation with Mr. David Scorteccia about how he developed the Sound Bullet and how you can get a hold of one, what it does, and what it's all about.
So basically, the way the Sound Bullet works is that it's got an internal generator, and then you turn the device on, and then you decide if you want to keep it generating pink noise, which is like the default signal that it generates, or if you want it to generate a 1 kHz tone. The step after that is to decide where you want to route it to. That's why it's got a routing. So when you turn the Sound Bullet on, it automatically goes out of the of the Mayo XLR. And it checks for phantom power and all of that. But then when you press this button here, the internal generator is directed to the jack, the speaker, and the headphones output. So basically, if you put the jack into the Sound Bullet, and then you turn it on, and you want to direct the internal generator to the jack, then the signal is gonna come out of the speaker, and this is because that's how the circuit is. And that is also what allows you to plug an output of a musical instrument into the jack, and then go into the to the speaker. The input of the speaker amplifier is always connected to the jack. So that means that if I route the internal signal to the jack, also the speaker amplifier is gonna pick it up and reproduce it through the speaker. But also if I plug something into the jack, that's also going to go to the amplifier and come out of the speaker. Basically, I wanted the Sound Bullet to not be something that you need to press 1,000 buttons to get to something. So you only need to press like two very simple buttons on this. The features that I really want people to know is the phantom power test, because that so if I've actually got it kind of set up. So if I've got the the two lights coming up, this is a really incredible way to it's a really fast way to determine if the if that XLR line was healthy, because if I then start to kind of detach one or the other, you should be able to see that only one light comes up. I can't really do it, but yeah, there you go. Do you see that? Yeah. So if I do that, so if only one light's come up, it means that that pin that isn't lit up is faulty somewhere. So then if you're gonna plug a mic into that line, that's gonna give you a lot of trouble. And also the fact that the case has got a little carabiner in the back, and you can if you are one of those people that feeds a belt through a little loop, you can still do it. You can still sort of put it in between there, in between the carabiner and the back of the case. So you can still wear it that way, but I usually just kind of I clip it onto my jeans, kind of like this, and it's quite kind of fast. And then I take it off if it's annoying me. So that's this is I love to wear stuff, but it needs to be really small. It's kind of weird. So I used to have this key ring that. There was a snapped off jack, a 1/4-inch jack connector that I used to carry on my keys, and I always this is maybe 10 years ago kind of thing, and I used to think it would be really cool if I could cram some circuitry inside this jack, so that I can plug this straight into a guitar amplifier, and then I can hear a 1 kHz tone or something like that. But then I suppose the reason why I really I started off to actually start to think about making this into a product is because I had made my own little prototype, which I've been using for roughly 6 months, and I just instantly realized how how useful it was to me, and how it was making my my workflow so much easier. So I thought, I really need to, do many more than one. So yeah, that's what sprung me off to do it. And I've been a freelance sound engineer for about 10 years. And at some point I thought I would dedicate myself to create a tool that I really needed. And I'm working on this like all the time, like night and day. Definitely need to get, like an office, myself, because I'm doing all of this from, improvised kind of cafes and stuff like that. I just go in a cafe and I like email stuff, and that's where I do all of my phone codes. Well, I suppose like I started off with the with a pink noise generator, and the way I achieved that was to so basically I've taken you can buy these like micro SD card readers that as soon as you give it a little bit of power, they start to play whatever file, whatever audio files are contained within that, within the micro SD card. So that was my sort of like cheap and easy way to to like generate pink noise. And then the very next challenge was how to come up with a very small speaker that would be loud enough, but yet really small to be able to cram it into such a small enclosure. I have pitched this to the manufacturer companies R&D department, and then they have looked at how to make it possible. And since I had been using my like little prototype for like 6 months, I soon realized that having just like a pink noise generator and a speaker wasn't really enough. So then I thought, what if we can stick in like a cable tester? What if we can stick in like an input like an input meter and other stuff that by using the prototype I realized that I really needed to have in this little tool. I give the engineers at the company like a very detailed like a specification of how big it had to be, what sort of connectors and some like alternatives, and what it had to do. The pink noise had to be set at a specific output level and all of that, and then the sort of like broke it down into parts, and then they started to work on it. I've traveled to the company like so many times to try things out and see what's the best way to do it. Yeah, one thing was the phantom power. Like I told the engineers that that the sound bullet had to be sort of protected against phantom power, which is like it's quite big kind of shock, but also it had to be able to to test for if it's there or not. Like they didn't know that you could have an input channel of a desk with phantom power engaged in it already, and then bang, you would insert the sound bullet into it, and then they weren't really expecting this like sort of like transient from 0 volts to like 48 volts, and then that was an issue because it would actually fry the the circuit that was after the blocking capacitors. But it's because like like if you tell like an electronic engineer like this is gonna have to deal with 48 volts, they just imagine that everyone is very relaxed and they go and plug in this device and then okay, let's turn on the 48 volts, and then it ramps up really nice and easy, and then okay, it works fine, but it's actually it's a lot more kind of drastic, and you just kind of plug it in and out. It was fun and challenging at the same time. Basically, we started with what we call like a demo board. So a demo board is basically like a PCB board, like an electric board, which doesn't take into account the constraints of the enclosure into which you will then enclose like the actual device. So this like demo board was like about this size, and it had like massive the biggest XLR connectors and the biggest like jack connector, and it had like massive knob for the volume and stuff like that, which then it doesn't really matter. And then that's the board onto which you can sort of fiddle around with if you realize that maybe an output signal is like too hot, then you can just go and desolder like a giant like resistor and then replace it with like another resistor, so that you can like fine tune that output signal. So I think we went through 3 demo boards, And then once the 3 demo boards were done, then the engineers, and especially the ones that look at kind of CAD work, so how to get like a schematics into like an actual board. So they'll do a really it's quite a big job, but basically you would just kind of shrink up all of that PCB board into like a very small board, and then you would need to test that again and see if that works. And this, like, I'm talking about like months, like to see if it works is like a month or 2 months job, because you will always come across like issues, and then like some issues might be small. It's just a matter of like replacing a component or find like another component that doesn't break. Some other issues are quite big because they might prompt you to like rethink like the whole process from scratch. And fortunately enough, we didn't have any by the time that we got the very very small boards, but we did have them when we did the demo boards. So yeah, after that was done, then I took a little prototype with me and I tested it on the field, because the field is a lot different to the like an electronic lab where everything is perfect, and it's actually meant to be perfect, and that is the most important part of the whole process. And that's, I think, why we managed to make like the sound bullet into like a very kind of sturdy product, a very sturdy like device, because there's somebody that who's me, that like they went into the field and used it like a lot to find out what problems might occur, like problems of like either that the things will actually blow up, or like problems of like things might be a little like confusing. So yeah, that's the whole 2 years process, like explained in 10 minutes. I mean, I suppose you just need to be really like specific about what you want, because like if I, like for example, the sound bullet has an input meter, so it's got like a little LED with like signal, and then another LED with peak, and like peak and signal don't actually mean anything. That there's not really a standard. The way I had conveyed this to the engineers was like, oh yeah, and it's gonna have like a signal and peak meter, and then they were like, what do you mean? It's sort of like obvious to me what a signal would be, and what like peaking would be, but to an electronic engineer it's not really. So you really like need to think about like numbers, and also you need to think about what can go wrong, and start to think of all of the different scenarios. It's like a lot easier to start with like a whole bunch of things, and then like take them off, then add them later on like the line. This is like the exact same example of like like a band tech spec. You would always want to have kick in, kick out, snare in, snare top, snare bottom, like 1,000 overheads and everything. And then if you actually get to the gig and it's like a pub, then okay, it's only gonna be kick and snare. That's it. Like I never wanted to be like a salesman. This is like a sort of thing that as soon as people actually become aware of it, they just really want it. It's not like I don't need to convince anyone into buying this, because it almost kind of works like I've made this and it costs this much to make it, do you want it? And people go, yeah, cool, I really want it. So as opposed to, hey, I've come up with this like great idea so I can make like billions with it. It's more like I really wanted to make something like this and do it, and then that's kind of how much it costs, and that's how much I need to sell it for. I've got really like open ears about what people think, and what's maybe lacking into into the sound bullet. And then I suppose once I gather enough kind of proof of one feature, then I might think of implementing that into like a future version of the sound bullet. And again, I just wanted the sound bullet to be a very very simple thing that doesn't confuse people. So the sound bullet comes with a 1-year warranty, which means that if something unexpected happens to the sound bullet, then that can be sent back. Cheers, thanks a lot for your time.
So thanks again to David for being on the channel and telling us all about the Sound Bullet in his own words. Really cool to hear what they've been up to so far. They've been doing pre-order small batches and selling out larger batches every order cycle. And he said the next one is open for pre-orders right now. They are in production. You can order one and they should ship sometime in May of 2020. So in the meantime, I'm going to pass this one around to a few friends and get some other opinions for him and some more feedback. And we will see how it goes, how people think it works in the field and in the real world. And check it out. Let us know if you have any questions. And if we need to get David back on the channel for another talk, we'll definitely do that. He's been very generous to answer any questions you might have. So definitely leave those down in the comments below. And we'll have some more fun talking about the Sound Bullet in another video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. And I'll see you next time.